Morning everybody. Welcome to our March meeting of the Space Association. Sorry for the belated start, but we're just getting a few final things sorted out as we normally do. Numbers will be down tonight, but I suspect that's because of Easter, so it's all good, but we'll have a nice intimate evening this evening. So we've got a few things going on, another interesting month ahead. I'll just start off with a couple of things that are happening around the association and a few events that are going on. And once again, just a reminder of the upcoming meetings. Now, very important, next month, it's not Monday, it's Tuesday. Next month is the Monday, which would normally have been our meeting, is in fact Anzac Day, so we've bumped that across to Tuesday. So put that in your calendar, Tuesday the 26th. We had a really interesting talk happen last week, I think it was Thursday. This gentleman, Ed Van Cise, is current serving flight director on the International Space Station, and he was out in Australia on a conference in Perth and also in Melbourne, and we were lucky enough to be able to swipe in for an evening and do a presentation for us. We partnered with the Royal Aeronautical Society and the Engineers Australia and had it at the Engineers Australia headquarters in Burke Street. It was really beautiful, was it the 13th floor or something? 31st, overlooking the Docklands and out to the west. So he had a really fun evening. I was very fortunate enough, he was flying Virgin Australia, I was able to get him upgraded to business class. Work, so I met him at the airport. I just finished work myself, so he was more than delighted about that. So a couple of shots from the event itself. As someone mentioned, 31st floor. So really beautiful site, venue, and we've got some pretty good relationships now with the Engineers Australia people. So I think that we could possibly use this venue no or low cost for future events if we had some things. This takes about 250 people that can sit in there. But you need a bit of an intelligence test to get into the place. You sort of go up the elevator, go out, and you go downstairs. I don't know, some architect's dream. So anyway, we all set up, and we had a bunch of people from different backgrounds, students and academics and aeronautical people. And I did a little introduction thinking about the Space Association for the advertisement. We had our pull-up banner here, which Stuart Gamble, who's not here just yet, very kindly had printed off at his work for us. So that was really good exposure for us, along with the Royal Aeronautical Society. Then we had Murray Stimson introduce Ed, and he proceeded to give us a fascinating talk entitled, what was it entitled?
Planning for failures.
Planning for failures. Using a toothbrush to save the space station. So it was really good, really good. And he took a whole bunch of questions and really great evening. So then we went to dinner with him afterwards at the RSEB, and he was more than delighted. True gentleman, very appreciative of our efforts and helping him out, and just really enjoyed the whole evening. So that was great. And thanks to everyone that were involved here in that, putting it together and advertising and giving people on. It was good. Next item on the agenda.
Just one thing there, Peter.
Yeah.
Ed, I spent half an hour with Ed on Sunday after that talk, and we did about, 20 minutes interview, which will be on the radio later in the year. I told him probably after September sometime.
Okay. So you think it's going to coincide with the mission that he's running or something? Is that your timing thoughts? I think you
I haven't tied it into anything yet,
okay.
But if something happens dramatic on the space station, obviously it'll be bumped up in the schedule. But yeah, so people might like to know that it will be on the show sometime.
Yeah, terrific.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to talk about this in a moment, but you'll notice I'm wearing a lapel pin, which is right here. Ed now has one of these, and is, well, let's put it this way, keep your eye on SATV, he might be wearing it in mission control. So that'd be pretty cool if he gets that. So keep an eye out for a selfie with him wearing it. Next step is to get one on the space station. We'll one step at a time. Something we have been working very hard on is an upcoming event with the same people that brought out Buzz Aldrin last year, the company called Live on Stage. And late last year, we had a discussion about, you know, how good the event was and how much help the association was, and what sort of people would people be interested in seeing. And we talked about a lot of people, including Gene Cernan and Jim Lovell, and nothing to announce yet, but watch this space on those guys. But one of the other people we talked about was the fact that Gene Cernan had a movie coming out, and the fact that Michael had taken the lead on contacting the producers of the film, finding out if there was going to be a theatrical release in Australia and a premiere, which we'd like to be involved with. So basically these guys took that and ran with it, and the result is now this tour in Australia by Gene Cernan introducing his film Last Man on the Moon. I guess the key thing for us here in Melbourne is that there's going to be an event on May 31st here in Melbourne at the Astor Theatre. So it'll be short introduction. Gene will be there. First half of the movie, I believe this is how it's going to run anyway. Maybe a Q&A in the middle. I'm not sure how it's going to work. And then second half of the movie and a sit-down Q&A. And Lisa Harvey Smith will be emceeing that. So it should be really good. So details are here. It's in partnership with National Geographic. Once again, introducing this film. These are the dates: Perth, Carnarvon. Carnarvon may or may not have it, depending on how ticket sales go, basically. Sydney, there's two shows in Sydney. There's an afternoon, a matinee, and an evening show, primarily because the venue is a bit smaller than what they were aiming for, but that's okay. Melbourne, May 31st, and then Canberra, June 2nd. Thanks. May 31st is Tuesday, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So, now, one thing I should mention, is that if people have looked at the ticket, it's general admission. So, if you want to get a good seat, say no more, get there early.
Are the tickets open now already?
Open. They went on sale last Tuesday. In Sydney there was a hiccup, and the Sydney sales go on. So the ticket sales go on tomorrow. So
we just go back one slide. A little bit of trivia. The producer of the film, Mark Stewart. Yes. He's the son of famous British racing driver Sir Jackie Stewart.
really,
Yep.
wow.
Who was here for the
Jackie Stewart. Well, I've got another bit of trivia. Rod Stewart, along with Elton John, the lead singer of Led Zeppelin, and a couple other British rockers, are all model train buffs, and apparently take their model trains around with them and on tour. Apparently Rod Stewart, when he's in Las Vegas, books an extra hotel room for his train set. Things you read when you've got nothing else.
Oh, somebody said to him, have you been playing with your trains again? It's not a euphemism. They really mean it. Right?
Can you imagine that, eh? The rock and roll lifestyle.
Oh, yeah.
So this should be quite good, and as I may or may not have mentioned, I did an interview with Gene Cernan, a phone interview on Sunday, yesterday, and that was broadcast. It was recorded at 9 AM and broadcast 11 AM on Radio 3RRR on the Einstein A Go-Go, the weekly science radio program, and it's up online podcast now. We've also got a copy of that, and it's going to be broadcast at some point, either as a single entity or maybe split up on the Space Show over the next few weeks as well. So that was really good. Great honour to speak. I did mention it, now I'm going to mention it again. Michael had this initiative of this idea of having these pins made for the association, and it happens to coincide with the 35th anniversary of our association, so we thought be quite a nice thing to have. So we've actually gone ahead and bitten the bullet and purchased, I think, 100, although I think we ended up being 120 of them. So we're going to make those available to people. It's primarily a way of marketing the association. We've used it also to give away to people for thanks, for special occasions, actually. As I mentioned, Ed Van Cise got one. Basically, members can purchase those at cost, $5 a shot. If they need to be posted out, I've done all the nuts and bolts of postage, and an envelope and postage adds an extra $3, so it's $3, $10 for that. Non-members will be $10, and once again, if they want to be posted in Australia, it'll be $13. And you can pay for that through our Tidy Club page, which is actually listed as an event. It was kind of the way we had to engineer the process, but it all works. So basically, you buy a ticket and you get your PIN delivered in the mail. So, and also, if and when Stuart arrives, you could buy them tonight. Take that postage. We did have a session last month, and to give you a quick update on the Space Party. I know the Space Association is a non-political group, so I'm very conscious of the fact that I'm not pushing you on anything like that. Just give you an update for people that might be interested. So basically, we've had a discussion with the Science Party, which was formerly the Future Party, and they're pretty open to us influencing them on their their space policy. And so I had a 1 hour discussion with them last week or the week before it was, and they're pretty open to what we've got to say, and they're very happy to actually, because they're very small, they're very happy to have sort of some people that are sort of focused on that part of it. So, as opposed to the concept that we had at one stage was, well, maybe we'll just throw our lot in with the Science Party, but we do feel that there is value in having a single standalone, single issue party, this Australian Space Party. So we're going to continue down that path and try to be that focus and spokespeople for that issue. And ideally, we'll have identical policies to the Science Party, so we can be basically singing the same chord. We're still going through the process of registration and getting up membership and that sort of thing. So once again, if you're interested, let me know.
Sounds like a preference sharing deal to me.
Yes, it's all about that. Yeah, I'm going to have. I'll be in there on 0.00% or something. Although after this election, that will probably won't be able to happen.
Yeah, the purpose of this double dissolution is to minimise the probability that minor parties will get elected, so it's good.
Yeah, well, if we get our voice in there before that, that's okay. So, capping off, just the next meeting once again is Tuesday, the 26th of April. That's all from me. And I've lost my piece of paper that tells me what's next. Now, Ashley indicated before that you went to a presentation, a meetup thing last week. Did you want to just take 2 words about that and maybe talk about it a bit more in detail next month?
Yeah, so the Melbourne Uni Space Program had a meetup event about Lunar Mission 1. It's not like Mars 1 at all type stuff. It's actually about landing a lander on the moon.
It's like Mars 1, the lander's not coming back.
Yeah, so it digs down, and the idea is, their concept is that not only will they get core samples, but they'll also be putting material from Earth into this geologically stable region, so it would stay there for 1 billion years type deal. And so they're trying to get people around the world to contribute ideas and knowledge and stories about human history and what localities are doing, so that they can translate it onto media to put down this hole, and maybe in 1 million years our ancestors will find it.
A list of Brownlow medalists and Melbourne Cup winners.
Yeah, and also genetic samples. So they're saying for the, depending on if you contribute, you can send them like a hair sample
I
or
was just going to say,
hair sample or hair sample of your family,
I'd like
and
to steal one, I think.
they'll actually include that in the
there's
package that goes to the moon.
It's got a laser point.
So in 1 billion years, someone will dig it up and have all your genetic history.
Yeah, they regrow me.
So
That was my fault. Yeah, there we go.
All right, thanks for that, Ash. We'll maybe a little bit more about that next month, eh?
Photo bomb.
So, moving on to our next, our feature topic tonight is member activities, which is tonight going to feature Ishraj Inderjeet, who's been a member for the association for a little while now. He and Jessica Orr attended the Southern Hemisphere Space Studies program in Adelaide earlier this year. So they're going to give us a report on their time attending it, and which is presented by the University of South Australia in partnership with the International Space University. Ishraj completed a Bachelor of Engineering with honours in the Aerospace Engineering at RMIT University in 2015. He was a winner of the Sir Ross and Keith Smith Fund, full scholarship to attend the Space Studies program, which, by the way, the Space Association gave him a letter of recommendation, and so we'd like to claim a bit of that. Jessica recently moved here. She saw the light and moved from Brisbane to Melbourne. Works as a mechanical and aeronautical engineer at Boeing Aerostructures, so she can get your cheap airfare in Australia and in Melbourne, and has attended the Southern Hemisphere Space Studies program. Jessica, like the rest of us, is obviously a space enthusiast, and we hope this won't be the last time she will join us for a meeting in the space station. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Ishraj.
Thanks, Peter. So, I'm Ishraj, as Peter said, and Jessica's there. So, alright. So, the International Space University, where to start? I mean, where do I start? This was just amazing. And, you know, the very first thing that we experienced there was an opening ceremony. And I posted this picture online, and it went viral, as if this was not big enough or great enough, you know. So this picture went viral, and as another chapter of my life started. The media back home went crazy, back home in Mauritius. So as you can see, that's about 3,000 likes there, so it was crazy. Alright, so media back home went crazy as well, so they started, you know, contacting me. About 5 to 10 leading newspaper in Mauritius contacted me for, like, you know, articles and stuff. And International Space University, ISU, is also known as the Insufficient Slave University. And I'm told that you have to write articles for these news channel back home. It was just, I didn't sleep at all for this one whole month. So, I guess Jess has experienced somehow a similar story, so I'll let you tell your story about the engineer's story.
So, same as Ishraj, I attended on a scholarship from Engineers Australia, which really meant, like, I couldn't have gone without it, so I really thank them for it. At ISU we had a heap of media coverage, like Ishraj said. I was interviewed by Channel 9, and that showed on the local Adelaide news, which I'd never been on the news before, which was great. And our friend Dom, who studied at University of Adelaide, also appeared on the ABC. So I took a sneaky selfie of him getting interviewed, which was pretty hilarious. Got bulk likes on Facebook, which was great too. So that was really cool to get, for what we were doing in Adelaide to be shown across all of Australia. So the ABC News broadcast that nationally multiple times. We had people over on the East Coast go, "Oh my God, Dom, I saw you on Facebook." On the news, you're going to make us have a space policy, have a space association, because they took him out of context slightly, saying that we should have a space association, just like NASA, so it became a little bit contentious.
Mine was like, "Oh, you've got a job at NASA." I was like, "No, not yet."
Yeah, and that we put something into orbit, and we didn't actually put it into orbit, it just went up to our
Detail.
Yeah, it's like detail, but you know, it's explaining things to people who don't quite get it. But yeah, that's cool. So this is our class, so the class of 2016. We had people from 11 different countries. So there was 31 of us. Majority of them were Australian. And then the next big contingent was China with 11. We had 14. As well as people from India, Norway, Mauritius, Costa Rica, Italy, the Netherlands, like Canada, like there were just so many different people from all over the world, and it was crazy how awesome they were. And some of the people who came to this were like vice presidents of their organization. Like they were up here and we're like down here, like we just graduated. Like it was crazy to be sitting next to someone who is known for their technical ability as well as their leadership skills, which is great. So here's a snapshot of the Google Calendar of our light schedule for the 5 weeks we were there. So for the first 3 weeks in the morning we had technical presentations that covered multiple disciplines. So we had presentations on astrophysics, on space medicine, on space policy, on space situational awareness, commercial spaceflight, entrepreneurship, pretty much anything you could think of that was to do with space. And then things you didn't think actually had anything to do with space, like we had an anthropologist talk about space and culture, which really blew our mind about like how people thought the Earth looked before they were able to look at the Earth. And they pretty much had a good idea about it, that it was round, had blue water, green land, but no one seemed to realize that you'd be able to see the clouds from space. And we didn't know that until we sent people into space and they noticed that, oh guys, you've got clouds, you can actually see them. So that was really cool. In the afternoon we had workshops, again varying across many different disciplines. We did stuff on crisis communication, like we were the communication team for a space tourism company, and we just had a crash. And how do you deal with telling the public that you've lost your crew and your shuttle as well? So that was really good to deal with, because in the following week we had our own launch, which did go successfully, so we didn't have to use our skills. But
No one died.
yeah, so yeah, no one died. Everything came back how we wanted it, which was really good. And then every night we pretty much had a different topic to talk about. So we had a leadership seminar, we worked in our white paper, which Ishraj will talk about more later, as well as doing activities like cultural nights. Yeah, and we were up to 10 p.m. every night.
Started at 7.
Yeah, it started like 9 o'clock and went to 10 o'clock every day. So here's just some of the cool photos that I took during the few weeks. So John Connolly, who is the director of the program, whipped out Werner von Braun's 1969 lecture on manned Mars landings, like just had that, which was like freaking ridiculous. I just looked through that. Our 2 resident astronauts, Jean-Jacques Favier and Bob Dusk, brought along their stuff from when they were on mission up in the shuttle. So that's the first aid kit up the top, which is a backpack, so you just strap that on and you go wherever you're going, and pretty much had anything to do with anything. So like IV, syringes to insert, whatever. Apparently every person on crew needs to know how to do stitches, which pretty much rules me out. I can't deal with stitches. And then they also had some food which was out of date 2002. So we didn't get to taste any space food, but we got to see what it looked like. And it didn't look very good either. But we did learn that astronaut ice cream that you purchase online is not actually what they eat. They can actually have proper ice cream. So that's all fake. And so in the back corner, we have these goggles on that turn everything upside down. So to simulate what it would be like when you first arrive on the up in orbit. So everything flips around because of the way that your ear and your eyes will interact. So you can't actually, you have to think about what you're doing. And so you can't really see, but Gustavo wrote his name above me, and then I'm trying to do it. And then so the Chinese thought they'd do it a little bit more challenging and write their names in characters. And they did pretty good, so I was impressed. I couldn't even write my own name, which is cool. And so here's some of the more cultural activities and more like non-technical things. So Ishraj did his cultural night presentation on Mauritius. We had a cultural presentation on Italy. This was Chinese New Year, which is a little bit ridiculous. We had a presentation on Canada, so he had to get a canoe and he filled it with beer, which is very Canadian, and there was a fish as well. And then down in the bottom corner, we went to, what's that island called?
Oh yeah, Kangaroo Island.
Yeah, we went to Kangaroo Island, and so the guy in the blue shirt is Bob First, who's the Chancellor of Calgary University and also went on shuttle missions twice. And we just took him down to Kangaroo Island because we could, which was a crazy day. And so some extra things that we got to find out about, which you wouldn't necessarily get to learn, is about when things go wrong. So John Connolly is the human Mars mission director in NASA. And so he was working in NASA when the Columbia accident occurred. And so he was directly affected by it. His wife was one of the medical doctors to the crew, and so they were directly influenced by the impact of the accident. And he explained the human side of it, so how the organisation had to deal with the issues that the accident occurred and the looking into the accident. And he told us about how he led a team to go and search for debris that was scattered all over Texas. So they walked for days this far apart, so someone's standing here and someone's standing here, and they just had to search the ground and pick up absolutely anything. And he did really well in explaining it. We thought that it may still be a touchy subject, but we were so impressed with the way he just sat there and talked about it and portrayed to us that crisis communication is so important in portraying your message to the public, especially when it's a government organisation. He was also super supportive, so in the final hours of the white paper submission, I jokingly said to him, like, oh, is there anything we can do for you guys, like anything at all? And I was like, oh, you can make us some cookies. And then 2 hours later he rocks up with cookies. Like, it was really funny.
Tastes good.
They were delicious. Obviously packet stuff from Woolworths, but he tried. Too bad they didn't have Mars in them, that would have been even funnier. So that just shows how supportive the staff were at ISU and how they care so much about our well-being and that we produced a fantastic product in the end. We actually have a few here of the final product. So here's the white paper, the entire white paper, that's actually coloured, not white. And also the executive summary in English and in Chinese as well, if you wanted to have a look at it. So I can pass it around. So an extra deliverable we were given this particular year was a stratospheric balloon launch, which occurred on Australia Day. So we had some help from the Amateur Radio Experimenters Group, or AREG, who do this for fun pretty much every weekend of their life, which is really good to see. So you blow up a atmospheric balloon, you launch it up, you have the payload attached to it, and it floats to where it wants to, and then you track it down by driving to the speed limit. So our particular payload was used to remote sense crops in South Australia to determine whether or not it's feasible as a low-cost project to monitor the health of your crops for potential use in third world countries, which this all ties to our white paper topic, which I will explain later, about food and water security. So we used a Raspberry Pi computer, and there was 2 cameras on it. There was a visible spectrum camera and there was an infrared camera. And so we used these together with GPS to locate where our balloon went and overlay the images on top of each other. So this is the poster that we presented to the Mount Barker Council, as they were one of the major sponsors of this project. But the green shows healthy crops, while the red and the yellow showed not so healthy crops. So this is a photo of Mount Barker community from about 36 kilometres above the Earth. And there's pictures. So that's the payload there, that's attached to the string and that's it flying away. So this is a really big deal because they'd never done anything like this before. And I think it was put together in about a week, if I remember correctly, but it felt like 4 weeks.
We're still in
And
5
so
weeks.
it was a major success because we recovered the payload, we got the pictures out. We have gigabytes and gigabytes of pictures of the Earth. So this was launch day. So it was a little bit windy in the morning and they were not so sure we were actually going to go up, but we made it up. And we went to 36.3 kilometres above the Earth, which is really cool. And everyone was super happy because it meant it was over. Do you have to click on it?
Yep.
This is
Okay, you all ready? Okay, so let's have a quick look at our watch and make sure that we're okay. David, have we got telemetry? Okay, we've got the thumbs up from our ground crew. So at 9:33, we have no aircraft above Mount Barker.
Oh yeah,
So let's start the countdown.
launch.
So if everybody wants to join in, so we'll start from 10. Okay,
And it had to
everybody
clear
ready?
the airspace as well. So.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go! And here we go, ladies and gentlemen, the balloon is in the air. So all balloon launches come with a 1-2 warranty, and once we let it go, it's too late.
Oh, that's fast.
Okay, so the balloon is now gaining altitude. It'll be roughly rising at the rate of about 5 metres per second, which is about 20 kilometres per hour. Got a little bit of drag in the lower atmosphere, and so it'll continue to rise up and up and up, and hopefully we will see that later on this afternoon, somewhere between Karoonda and Bow Hill. Okay, thanks everybody for coming. That's our launch, and we'll hopefully see you again soon. Cheers, bye-bye.
So part of the project as well was to predict where the balloon would actually land, and I think they got it fairly accurately. They knew that it was going to go east, so they went east instead of west. And they had to dredge the bush for a little while to actually find it as well. So he mentioned that there was no aircraft above when they launched it, and that's true. About 5 minutes later, as you still see it floating up and up and up, some aircraft are flying over it. So that was a bit scary, but
So we had a 15 minutes
Yeah.
window. So.
yeah. And even still then, they were
But
flying
it would
over.
take 15 minutes to get to the aircraft altitude anyway, wouldn't it?
Yes, but
We're right on the 15
So
Oh, it's
we're
a-
like, I
oh, it's a
really
rocket
did
that's
it.
going to push it up. Okay.
yeah,
I'm
but
sure they know what to do.
just
Maybe.
massive.
And apparently the balloon would increase in size as it goes up.
The rocket just takes a lot longer to come back down again.
Yeah.
well.
So I think at the next ISU, the Northern Hemisphere program, they're actually going to use rockets instead of balloons because they go faster. So these are some of the pictures that we collected from our balloon at altitude. So they're of South Australia. There's a river and stuff, which is really cool. And so all of the images of the Earth in those documents are photos that we took. So that just shows how good the project went and how successful it was.
No aliens.
No editing. Well, no, these ones are raw images. The other ones we stitched together.
So the Earth is round then.
Yeah, can confirm. Oh, that it. Somehow, some rapper decided to Drake was like, oh, the Earth is flat, and started this huge fight on Twitter at the same time as we were doing this, and so some of our more popular Twitter people were like fighting him. It's like, you just took this photo of the Earth, like it is round, guys.
So it's bursting. The balloon is just burst.
Oh,
so
it's
it's
good.
going down. So it was very.
So did it have an altitude sensor to burst it, or did it just burst on its own?
I was.
No, it just burst
They
itself.
just do that.
Yeah.
But
That's Gemini A.
So it was 36 kilometers up.
Maybe a
Doing
stable
bone
thing
grabbing.
on the next one.
Is it spin stabilized?
Yeah, we didn't have enough time for that one. That was in the next iteration.
And you need
So-
a,
We took our mission planning very seriously at ISU. Here is our plan for the mission.
just like this.
And we also came up with a name. So our Italian colleague, who wasn't so confident in her English, came up with this one night at pretty late, and she said, "What can does SPOM?" And SPOM stands for Space Program Official Mascot, and SPOM is also a koala, not one of those little gremlin things, just to clarify. So that became kind of like a joke throughout the rest of the course, which was pretty funny. And someone, we don't actually know who drew that up on the board, but I did modify it slightly. But-
Series reach Matt.
Was it Matt?
Yeah.
Okay, so Matt from Nova Systems up in Brisbane drew that up, and then we modified it slightly with some more personal jokes as well. Yeah, so I'll hand over to Ishraj to talk about the white paper. Oh.
Alright, so trying to read from there is very hard, so let me do this. Alright, sensing progress, the white paper for SHSSP 2016. So let's find out what the mission statement of this white paper was.
Oh, and before you go on, you can go and look at all the stuff to do with the white paper at that
Okay,
address.
yes. Right, so what can space technology, along with current and emerging technologies, contribute to solve the connected problem of food and water insecurity, especially in the global south? So that was the mission statement. So again, space-based technology, along with other current and emerging technologies, what can they do to solve the current growing problem of food and water insecurity in the global south? So you might ask, what is global south, right? So global south is all the countries below and through the Tropic of Cancer, this line there. So all this is global south. So it's about 133 countries out of the world's 197 countries. It is known as the developing part of the world, or the third world, which I don't want to use, but yeah, this is the fact. And it is also known as a zone of turmoil, all about poverty, war, tyranny, or famine. So it has a lot of problems. So especially also food and water insecurity there. So it's important to look into or scrutinize into what's actually causing food insecurity and fresh water scarcity in this region. Whether that's because tyranny, lack of infrastructure, global warming, or an uneducated population. So that was the whole purpose of the white paper. All right. So, and then who are we writing this white paper for? Well, we're writing this white paper for the United Nations Committee on the Peaceful Uses of Outer Space, the UN COPUS, which is a working group for the United Nations, and other organization which deals with food and water security, and also advise policymakers on possible solution or recommendation that I'll talk about in a few minutes on how to solve this problem. So, what's next? So before I dig into any further details, let me give you an overview of what we had and how much time we had for this whole white paper. This was 5 weeks, right? We had a big team, but yet a bigger project and a very short time. 31 participants, 11 different nationalities, as just mentioned, unrelated backgrounds, so they were all from lawyers, doctors, scientists, name it, you can find it there. So it was total, there was such diversity there in terms of what people are doing. And what united us, I was asking myself the question, well, I'm an aerospace engineer, it makes sense that I'm there, but what about them? Business people, economists, what are they doing there? But then I realized I had this passion for space, and that's what united us and made the project become a success at the end. So, for such a big team, you need to divide work. You can't just tell someone to write the white paper, the whole white paper. So we had this division of work, so assignment of tasks. There was a team management, research team, writing and editing team, graphics section, which I think Jess was part of it. Also Jess was part of the team management there. And the presentation team, which I was part of. And to start with, the research team was more what we all did at the beginning stage, so no one could escape that. So we did that for quite a while before stepping into the other roles that we were assigned. So, as I said, the research team was at the beginning, so we had to come up with the issues affecting food and water insecurity in the global south. So we then listed that. It's not very clear, but this was all the issues that we came up with. So everyone had to list the top 3 issues, and then we came up with this list there. And then we voted for the top 5, which I'm going to show you in a minute. So top 5 issues were climate change, infrastructure, urbanization, and population growth, food and water management, flooding, and drought. We realized that some of these were overlapping, so as we've made some more research and go in depth with these 5 issues, especially dividing the groups now in 5 different groups, each one tackling one of these issues, the causes, the solution, the recommendation was the same, so they're overlapping. So we had to get rid of 2 of them, which end up having just 3 issues, which is climate change, urbanization, population growth, and flooding and drought. So then all the group had to search for recommendation in regard to space-based and other technologies which are there, or emerging technologies. So we had to come up with recommendation using online literature review, printed resources, input from subject matter experts who were there and also abroad, like press curves and stuff. So these were the 3 recommendations. So the first one was the international data sharing. Then we had the capacity building and expanding current schemes. So I'll read the recommendation that we came up with. So open and timely sharing of Earth observation data, experience, and other information resources among nations and people. That was for international data sharing. Capacity building, the recommendation that we came up with was to call on government in the global south to invest in capacity building by funding Earth observation and remote sensing education and outreach programs. And then the final one was expanding current schemes. So it recommended expansion of current Earth observation programs by establishing multispectral policies and programs focused on strengthening food and water security within states with existing schemes, and to states where such schemes would improve the quality of life. When I say states, it means countries, so that's the term we use in policy. So these were the 3 recommendations that we came up with to solve this big issue, growing issue of food and water insecurity in the global south. So what did we find? So we found that while it is unrealistic to try and find a single solution in the problem of food and water insecurity, it is realistic to bring to bear solutions stemming from utilization of space-based technologies and resources. So you can't find one single problem to this big issue, but you can find part of the solution from space-based technologies and resources. Also find that one recommendation on itself probably won't work, so a combination of these recommendations is the best, the ideal solution. So that was what we find. And also, so the next phase was the presentation, the white paper presentation, which I was part of. So the white paper is finally delivered, which you probably have a look. That's the white paper that it took us about 4 weeks, I guess, to get to that stage. And then we had about 3 days, to be honest, just for the white paper presentation, because we had to get feedback from the white paper team and then take that forward for presentation. So we gave a presentation to an audience of subject matter experts, astronauts, engineers and space industry people around the world, because there was a live stream broadcast going on. And yes, we did all this in 5 weeks. So again, I was one of the 7 speakers on that night, and with a team of about 10 to 12 people, and in about just 3 days we had to come up with this presentation scenario, presentation script. So I'll talk about the scenario in a few minutes, and also find an audio-visual team to do the live broadcasting. So it wasn't done by a professional, it was all students doing everything there. That's what ISU is about, so you just put you in the deep waters and find your way back. So let's just have a look at that part of the presentation.
I'd like to thank Mr. Edwards for his contribution to our discussion today. So we've seen that business partners and farmers are interested in using space technology to help them in their agricultural initiatives and helping food and water insecurity. And we've heard that space technology exists and is being used in countries such as China and Costa Rica. We've heard that international organizations are using cooperation methods to get this work done. But there still seems to be a gap between the policies and strategies that we already have and the people that need our help from starving. So I'd like to ask anyone here today, is there anyone that can help us to close this gap? Anyone with ideas?
Mr. Chairperson, if I may.
Yes, Mr. Ishraj Inderjeet from the World Secure Foundation.
I was at dinner last night. Okay. I'm the Secretary General, Mr. Chairperson, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, and distinguished guests. I'm here today to wish that we have enough fresh vegetables and food to consume in 20 to 30 years' time. Now, why I say this? The world population is 7 billion people at present. By 2050, there will be 9 billion of us. If this room was the world, 20 of you today will be food insecure. If we continue the way we're going, we will one day go to our favorite restaurants just to see our favorite meals missing. It's high time we acted now. A hungry man is an angry man.
So we'll just mute the video. I mean, if you want the link, we can give you that. There's the whole YouTube video about it, about 1.5 hours presentation there. So so you've seen it's the scenario is more like UN United Nations with all the flags and all that. So why did we do that? Well, we wanted to replicate the UN caucus, so the United Nations Community on Peaceful Uses of Outer Space. So we wanted to give the same sort of because at the end we're going to give this. We're doing this for this organization. So why not replicate that? So we had to come up with this scenario, which is, as I say, all this in 3 days, and so again, the presentation went for about 1 hour, and followed by questions and answers from a panelist of people present there and also audience. So just read, but I can't find it. So I just alright. So there was the presentation explored largely the contents of the white paper, as I say. So and also particularly the recommendation of the white paper dealt with the presentation dealt with the 3 recommendations that I talked about. Also the techniques that Jess has talked about in, like going up and then measuring Mount Barker and all this. So how these, after analyzing this, we can provide useful information to the agricultural industry there. So it was mainly this. So I'll move on to the next one. And yeah, so after that we graduated. So that's me and Jess there, and John Connolly. So John Connolly again is the head of the human mission, NASA's human mission to Mars. Let's take a look at this video. I mean, this is something that summarizes most of the things that we did there. Yeah, just press.
I should also mention that we had 2 exams as well throughout the course based on the lectures at the beginning as well. So we were up. We'll just have the sound back on.
Just when you think, everything is over, you pack everything and you go home. I mean, after 5 intense weeks of, hopefully Jess is here from Brisbane now, but you've got 31 people, some live like 6,000 kilometers away or whatever. So, you're probably never going to see them. My housemate was from Costa Rica, so I mean, you probably never get to see him again. It's crazy when you think about it, and I think I'll never recover from that again. And well, I went home, packed everything, and then 1 week later got a mail, and we got this certificate signed by Buzz Aldrin. So that was signed, which is amazing, you know, just to complete everything. And then, if that's not enough, I mean, the party is not over. So, and then, you remember Spawn? You know, we took that, you know, light, you know, we were joking about it, and today we have a crater on Mars called Spawn. Hard work pays indeed, so that's the certificate.
And that was organised by the faculty as well. It wasn't like we did that ourselves. Like that's how that's how cohesive the whole thing is. Is that the faculty feel like they're a part of our group, and we feel like we work together with them as well. So
How big is Spawn Crater? How big is it?
11.3 kilometres.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then we
the Mars
also,
One crater will be the same size when they do it.
That'll be considerably smaller.
for those who haven't touched something which has went out of space, or near space, that went out of space.
So part of the stratospheric balloon thing was also community outreach, which is a big thing of ISU. So there were public panels where the astronauts came and spoke, and like the little kid with the 2 photos, he was so excited that he met these astronauts. We also sent some seeds up into space, which will also be distributed to schools all over the world as well as part of the program, which is really cool as well.
It's like an orbital vault, which is just crazy. I mean, 5 weeks, and then we did all these things. It's just amazing. I mean, there's so many things to say. I guess I can talk forever. Like, yeah.
You can talk for 5 weeks.
Yeah, crazy. I can talk 5 weeks and a bit more. All right, thank you everyone, and unless anyone has any questions.
Shukriya. Ishraj and Jessica, well done, congratulations. I think it's absolutely fantastic to see space being taken up by you folks. An absolutely excellent thing to do. I noticed that the main theme of it was inward looking towards the Earth, which is a great place to start because space is accessible in terms of low Earth orbit and getting things to look at the Earth, and I think monitoring food and infrastructure and resources and all that is not only worthwhile, it's essential. So really well done on that. It's an absolute great effort. So you are to commend it. It's interesting that in the John Connolly presentation, I saw the slides go through very quickly. I had one on the wall there and it said, going to Mars is hard. And that just went through in about a tenth of a second, I caught it. And his title is actually NASA Director of Mars Mission Planning. That's the key word. They actually don't have a mission to Mars yet. It's mission planning. And according to his own slide, that's a very hard thing to do.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, well done. And I'd love to see that one, the Werner von Braun presentation. That'd be excellent. So is that available?
I'm hoping we can ask John to do Skype talk one day and do that. That was just amazing what he did. I mean, we can't do the same what he did, but hopefully he can do that one day. Yeah, that was great. I mean, there's so many things. I mean, we can't just like there's things that I don't know. Like there's so many things that we tend to forget then after a while, but then. Too many things in 5 weeks. I mean, it was amazing. Too many amazing things in 5 weeks. You can't put that in just one presentation.
Totally forgot that John Connolly also did a presentation on the 2 potential ways to get to Mars. So it's a long stay and a short stay, and he went through the pros and cons of both of those as well.
So these were like extra lectures that he gave.
Yeah.
Yeah. So probably the first time. But also, from my personal experience, I mean, again, because the media went crazy back home. I mean, for me, it's like this was already amazing, and I was going into a different world there. But then all these people who I've never met before, started sending me messages, comments on my pictures and stuff, and they were like, keep going, you know, like for Mauritius, a small island where I come from, just adopting the world. I mean, this is just crazy. I mean, they've also, I don't know if you know, but like, they also call me astronaut. Like, it's crazy. But for me, it was like, it's opening eyes. I mean, for someone who's, I'm still not a citizen here, and for someone who's not a citizen, to do something here in Australia like this is, for me, amazing. And back home, they were so happy with that. So this is the thing that keeps gives me the momentum to keep doing, and I'm hopefully going to do more on this. It's just
You mean Mauritius doesn't have a space program?
it doesn't.
Oh,
I'll probably get one before we do so.
It has a tourism program.
So there's Australia and Mauritius.
Well, it's fantastic. I think one of the things you'll...
Yes.
I saw a reference in one of the pictures to an exam. Was there an exam to graduate, and did anyone fail?
Yeah, there was, well, technically there were 3 exams. So there were 2 multiple choice exams which you had to pass, and there was also an essay. One where we had to write 2 essays from 3 questions, and yeah, you had to pass them to pass the course, and no one failed because everyone who goes there is super smart anyway. So it was more bringing all the ideas together that they had explained to us. It wasn't a super technical exam, it was more a general broad thing so that to demonstrate that you understand how everything interacts together and how space policy influences the engineering, and the engineering obviously is influenced by the physics and that kind of stuff.
So we had like 47 lectures, core lectures.
Yeah.
Again, just the fundamentals. So, and then it covered everything that Jess said before, like space policy, space engineering, space law, name it, everything about space. So, human side of space, like psychology and all this. So we had exams based on this, and then also we had workshop which would cover part of them, but not every workshop was related to the lectures, but they were like some of them were like part of them as well. So. At the end, it was a complete program. I mean, I couldn't ask more. If I could ask for anything more, it's sleep. That's about it. More sleep. That's
Yeah,
it.
I didn't sleep for 3 days straight. Like, I'm not actually kidding. Like, I was up for 3 days. By the time we got to that presentation, I hadn't actually slept. I'm sitting there. I'm like, I'm gonna fall asleep. I almost did.
And
So
probably
embarrassing.
just forgot to mention, she was on the editing team, graphics and all that. So there were power cuts all throughout the 5 weeks. They're like most of the time.
Yeah, welcome to Adelaide.
And we had to deliver that like the next day. These guys were like amazing what they did. I mean, I was part of the presentation team. We weren't that affected, but these guys had power cut right before the deadline. And
Yeah.
they went to the hotel, in a small room, used the hotel Wi-Fi, which is very slow.
Yeah.
Work from there. It was just crazy. I mean,
Yeah, so we like
It's
picked up
all-
all our computers. Like, I was working on a desktop computer. We picked it all up. We headed to the Mawson Lakes Hotel, and they luckily had like a conference room spare, and so we were in the conference room for 2 hours until the power came back on. But we'd lost work obviously when the power got cut off. But
Might have been a secret strategy to test you under pressure.
no, like Australia Day, we lost power. Like the entire university was shut down, and like we couldn't do our cultural presentation on Australia Day. So that's why we were out in the middle of the lawn. I was like, where are we?
Well, I think you'll find, like, as people in many walks of life, many industries, you never know going down the track where those connections will lead. Like
Well, yeah,
different
Jackie
industries,
Jackie showing
people
me.
will connect a dot, and I know this guy who was there, and it'll serve you well during your career going
we
forward.
had Peter came by as well. So
I came by
it's amazing.
for the boat race, yeah.
I was
Barbecue.
for the, we had this culture night outside that night because of the power cut, but it was amazing. And also, probably that's the reason why they teach us like expeditionary behavior and mission failure and all this at the very beginning, so we can relate to that if power cuts and all that, so we can keep us alive, So that was just amazing, and again, it's the diversity of backgrounds is crazy. I mean, any one of you can be part of it. You just have to have a passion for space. That's it.
That's true.
And a bachelor's degree.
Well, thank you again.
Thank you. So I'll leave you guys with this last
the
video.
really cool video. So a part of like the whole community thing was that the staff also put together this joke video for us. It's
Okay.
actually really funny. So
Yeah, of course.
yeah.
Big Bang Theory. It was also fun, just to mention. some of the jokes were just between us there. That's astronaut there.
So,
So that's John gonna be there.
So you hope you pick up to do.
You've never seen these people do these things, these crazy things. It's a guy from Nova System, one of actual Mexico actually. Just
Doing the knuckles.
that's actual footage from. That was from Media Crisis. So I had a question at this. I was trying to sound like an Russian asking a question. It was crazy. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks. Well, that's great. We're going to take a 10-minute break. Get up and walk around. Introduce yourself to anyone you don't know.
At a snail's pace, I've got to tell you. And when you see some of the timelines I'll talk about,
No, they've gone from cardboard to wood now.
you'll understand.
I thought you were talking about that bank account going down.
I hate to tell you this, guys, but this is a real project. It really is happening. And it will happen because Congress is making sure that it happens, even though, I'll come back to that, NASA tries to, play around with the budgets and things and doesn't allocate as much priority to it, but Congress keeps coming back and adding to it. Anyway, so this is the Space Launch System, which is the big new rocket that the Americans are making, which is a really deep space, it's made for deep space rocketry. And this is the new Orion capsule, often likened to Apollo on steroids. And you can see from the picture. If you recall, in 2010, Mr. Obama cancelled the Constellation program. That was this thing, was called the Ares 5 rocket. It had 5 big engines on the bottom, and then it had a big 5-segment solid rocket booster with the Orion capsule on top of it, and it was really a moon initiative. It turns out that when Mr. Bush announced it back in 2004 or 2006, I forget the date, was more words and smoke than real dollars. So it wasn't a hope in hell of building this thing. And also in 2010, there were a lot of developmental problems with it. So it was cancelled. Obama went for commercial space, which we know a lot about now. And at the time I thought, geez, this is going to be a real dog of a program. But in fact, commercial space seems to have maybe in the next year or two proven its worth. But Congress, because they didn't trust commercial space, mandated that Constellation program evolve into what became the Support and Space Launch System. Okay. The Orion project, that's the capsule part. There it is. That's, as I said, Apollo on steroids. It's got a European service module with solar panels. They developed that from their ATV experience, so the Europeans are on board with NASA. This is the capsule that you'll hear NASA talk about will get us to Mars. Well, it won't actually get you to Mars. You have to have a habitat module and a few other bits and pieces added to it. This is the re-entry vehicle that gets you back to Earth. So this was the capsule, and this is a breakdown of the capsule. You'll have the launch escape system there, the Orion space capsule, and you have the service module there. Sorry for the picture, but it gives you a relative scale. You'll see the space shuttle compared to Orion, compared to Soyuz, Shenzhou, Apollo, Dragon. There it is again compared to Apollo. The actual Orion will fly on what's called Exploration Mission 1. It's slated for no later than November 2018, and it will use what's called the interim cryogenic propulsion stage, which is this thing down here, which is souped up Centaur. Runs the, what are these things called? The HL-10s, are they? I've forgotten the name of them.
Anyway, is that no later or no earlier than?
No later than.
Okay.
The EM1, Exploration Mission 1, will go no later than November 2018.
What do they
That's
mean by
on,
that?
it's on schedule. Eh?
What do they mean by no later than?
It's mandated by Congress.
So it has to happen.
Has to
They're
happen.
going to rush it. Right
They're not
up to
rushing.
the-
The timelines are good. This thing will happen, but it's not. All it is a 70,000 kilometre slingshot past the moon and back. But it tests. It's one of these enabling
it's Apollo
flights.
4.
It's a demonstration enabling flight. Now that's EM1. That's definitely on the books, progressing towards it. EM2. This thing was going to be man-rated for $150 million. They're going to man-rate it. They've dumped that idea, and they've gone to what's called the exploration upper stage, and it has 4 of these engines. This builds what's known as the Block 1B version of this rocket. I'll go through this. This is. I'll go back to some of those points, but when I talk about program, you'll understand how it all fits together. But all this is being developed. Lots of discussions, lots of reviews going on. This is the actual rocket. Oops, go back. So you can see there's the core. That goes up to here. That's being constructed as we speak. There's the 5-segmented solid rocket boosters. They're the 4 space shuttle main engines, essentially. I'll talk a bit more about that. Then up here, you've got this adapter, and inside you've got this cryogenic interim upper stage. Then you've got the service module, and you've got the capsule, and you've got the launch escape system. So that's the what's called the Block 1 version of this SLS. It's a 70 metric ton to low Earth orbit. Can you play that video? We might as well have a look at some videos as we go. Fits 4 astronauts. Okay. Okay. Point of interest. The recovery has been designed that they must get the astronauts out within 2 hours of landing. And it's really to do with, in case there's bad seas or whatever, they can actually extract the astronauts in 2 hours, and they can actually come back and get the capsule later. If they even, if it's really rough seas, who knows, they might even lose the capsule. But that's one of the slated objectives. The actual capsule is made of 7 parts, and they use a process called friction stir welding, which is a really new technique. It's all done robotically from the chute factory in New Orleans. You'll see there's the machine doing the job. They build this pressure shell in New Orleans. They actually started welding in September last year, the first pressure vessel for EM1, and recently it passed its critical design review, which in December last year, which means that once they pass the critical design review, they can go into manufacture. In February, the pressure vessel arrived at Kennedy, and in the operations and checkout building, they will now fit it out. That's where they actually put all the wiring, and you can see bits of it there before they put the outer shell on the thing. It will then be mated to the, it's actually mated in the VAB, the Vertical Assembly Building, and it will actually have, this is inside, interestingly, this is the Orion and this is the SpaceX console for comparison. Quite interesting. Again, inside the Orion, not a very good picture. Oh, this was just something that happened recently where this lady, Charlie Blackwell Thomas, became the new launch director. She'll be the first female director of an actual flight, not manned, because Exploration Mission 1 is an unmanned flight, but she's had quite a bit of experience in the shuttle firing control room, so she's been now elevated to that position, which is good. The launch escape system, there it is. It's quite a smart system. It does all sorts of weird, wonderful things, but it's meant to cover 3 scenarios: the pad abort, the mid-altitude up to 150,000 feet, and then the final stage 150,000 to 300,000 feet. So at any of those points, this thing will get you out. However, interesting fact, apparently it has a possible failure rate of 1 in 10. So it's not a guarantee that you'll get off out of your rocket, which was an interesting statistic.
Do you know what the point of failure is exactly?
Don't know. I don't know what it is, but
I think it's like the way that they do their control system is like a rotating valve, and I think that was where it was failing in their tests. So that controls exactly how much exhaust comes out of each of the vents to give it some steerability, but because it's a moving part, it fails.
Anyway, this was first tested in 2010. I'll show you a picture of that in a minute. The EFT1, which occurred last December, had an inert version of this thing, and Exploration Mission 1 in 2018 will also have an inert. The real McCoy will be on EM2, which is no earlier than 2023. So that's no earlier than this time.
But the one that flew must have had an engine to eject it, though.
Not quite sure. There must have been a... See, this hasn't got just one engine. It's got multiple engines. It's got engines there. It's got...
it's a Jetson motor. Okay.
Jetson motor. So, yes, there are other engines. Okay, you want to fire this. This was 2010. This is a video from 2010 and shows you... This was just about the same time Constellation was cancelled. This was called Pad Abort Test 1.
It's funny how films from 2010 look really old, doesn't it?
slowly.
Put a filter on it.
Yeah.
What's the cover for? What's the projector for?
Say it again.
The cover over
Dust.
It's an aerodynamic shape. When it was first designed, it was segmented,
Oh, I see.
and then
3, 2,
see that shape.
launch. Stop.
Now watch it do its tricks.
Reorientation started. Reorientation complete. Apogee.
Realigns it, gets the heat shield going the right direction.
Max jettison. SBC jettison. Drogue deploy.
There you have it.
Director's on visual confirmation landing.
Not long after this, they cancelled the program. Anyway, an interesting point. You want to turn that one? Oh, I can turn it off from here. Interesting point. When the Orion with the service module is completed, back up to 2023 EM2, the projected cost of this thing is $17 billion. So it's not for the faint-hearted, that's for sure. And that's just the capsule and the service module, right? And to undertake those missions. Now, we've got that was a pad abort test, but we've got to do an in-flight abort test, and its AA2 is coming up in 2018, and it'll be launched on the first, or is it the second stage, one of the stages of the Peacekeeper missile. They'll sit on top, and they will go to maximum Q, supersonic, and they will fire the abort system to test that it works. Okay, the parachute system. They've had extensive tests since the since the early Constellation program days, and they have had some failures. In 2008, a chute failed to inflate. In 2010, they had the pallet not separate from the actual Orion capsule when it came crashing down into the dust. Recently, they did some tests at the US Army's Yuma Proving Grounds in Arizona, and they tested the 2 parachute option. That has a couple of risks to it. One of them is called pendulum risk, and what it is the thing starts swinging, and if it hits the ground at the right time in the right place, it can actually impart quite drastic loads on the people inside it. So they apparently have a fix by opening the chutes at 8,000 to 6,000 feet. Somewhere in there, if they open the parachutes up, they know they can survive that kind of pendulum risk. The European service module, and that's that little bit down here. It is currently, it's built by Airbus Defence and Space. I think it's in Germany. I wasn't far when I was in Germany last year. I wasn't far from there. I forgot the actual town where they actually built it, but that's it. And that structural test article arrived at Kennedy in November 15. Not at Kennedy. I think it might have arrived at Kennedy, but ended up at what's called the NASA Plumbrook Station Test Centre, which is part of NASA's Glenn Research Centre, the Space Power Facility they call it, in Sandusky, Ohio. This will test the structural integrity of this thing during SLS flight. There it is, bits of it being assembled. And this is the solar panel deployment test, and you want to have a crack at doing this. Those panels are 20 metres across, so they're pretty large. This was only a few weeks ago.
It was not so easy to reach this point. The deployment test is a milestone to go to Mars. It's not just a project, it's history.
2, 1.
was a successful test. Following that test, they're going to do...
Sorry, will that service module, will that be a fully functioning service module on the next Orion flight, or is that an inert?
Yeah, no, it is fully functional. This provides, you know, all the propulsion, translation control, electricity, water, air, radiators, but the brains are from Orion. This doesn't have brains in itself, so it derives its intelligence from the Orion capsule. But after these tests, which was only a couple of weeks ago, they're then going to start doing acoustic testing, again at the Glen Centre, and vibration testing. They've got a big table, they put it on there and shake the hell out of it. They did it with the Orion capsule not so long ago. It'll arrive for EM1 in January 17 for the Exploration Mission 1, and at that point it gets mated with Orion, and then as an integrated package it goes back for testing, for vacuum testing. So yeah, but that's going pretty well. Last year when I gave this update, one of the critical path items was considered to be this thing. So everyone at NASA was worried, oh, the Europeans are not going to come through. But anyway, they seem to have spacesuits. They're still being developed. There's no update from last year. Still progressing in the development of the Orion spacesuits. Habitat module, interesting. The 2016 budget, fiscal year budget, which was approved, which if you recall, NASA requested 18 point something billion and they got 19 point something. Again, because Congress wanted to make sure that SLS and Orion were properly funded, but they also mandated development of this habitat module, which is going to be a prime requirement when you're going to cislunar space and certainly going to Mars. It's just probably a beefed up module like is on the space station, and but they have been told to develop it. And it may look something like that, and you can see that you've got the exploration upper stage mated to the various modules with Orion on the back. This is probably a configuration you'll see a lot in the 20s.
So is the habitable volume just two small cylinders in the middle and the Orion capsule?
How much volume?
Is that the habitable volume?
Yeah.
Go back one slide.
Yeah, it's
so
very
two
small.
cylinders in the middle and the Orion capsule.
Yeah, and when you, how much did they say? I think they said that was 15 feet,
yeah.
Which was whatever, 5 metres, not very big. So it's not, they're space station modules, they're not very big, so it's not my idea of, you know, going away for 12 months and that.
18 months at least.
Yeah, so anyway, but they will require this in the 20s. Now the mission to Mars, there's probably 2 or 3 of these put together, and that's only the first part of you know, a flotilla of craft that sort of converge at Mars. But it's all conjecture. It's all pie in the sky stuff.
Well, they're flying a Bigelow module to the ISS.
Yeah,
so
SpaceX.
could end up being one of those.
SpaceX next mission will fly the Bigelow, the little baby
Inflatable.
B.
No, it's not inflatable, it's expandable.
Expandable.
No, well,
Oh, sorry, yes, of course.
it is expandable, it's not inflatable.
All right.
That's on April the 9th.
So
outside
SpaceX are flying to the ISS?
Yeah,
In what, the
trunk.
unpressurised cargo trunk?
Yeah.
in the trunk, yeah.
In the
I've
trunk.
got a picture of it. if you
Oh,
want.
Okay.
Okay, this is a comparison of what we're talking about here. The old Saturn V space shuttle. This was the Ares constellation program. That's the what do you call it?
Ares 5.
That's the Ares 5. That's Ares 1. That's the SLS. That's the Block 1. Block 1B, and the final version of the 150.
So those boosters, liquid versions on the right hand side, the last one?
These ones?
Yeah.
No, they're still solids. The liquid boosters were actually some years ago were on the table, but when they started to slash and burn everything, they were taken off the agenda. The reality is there is a path for development of the SLS in the future, but there's been no money, nothing given to study or even produce hardware for a liquid fuel solid rocket booster. And there they are again, you can see them. We're going to go to EM1 in this rocket, and we will go EM2, Exploration Mission 2, no earlier than 2023 in that rocket. And there's some cargo versions of those things. Russian India, and of course we always compare it to the football field. And that's it compared to an American football field.
So it's as good as the
correct. What I'm going to talk about is the core stage, and that's this bit from about here to there. Huge, longer than the first stage of the Saturn V, but not the same diameter. Saturn V is a bit bigger. And these are the true colours. As you can see, this is all insulation. And in the early days, I mean, only till recently, all pictures you used to see of it were white. The reason why they didn't show the true colours, which is just the natural insulation, is because it reminded Congress and others to the Constellation program. So they didn't want to compare to Constellation, so they made it white. But now they've gone to the true colours. This is the cargo version of it. That's what it kind of looks like. Now this is New Orleans, the Michoud factory. Huge. This goes back to the Saturn days. This is where they used to build the Saturn Vs. New Orleans. And there's a couple of big barrels that they put together. And this is a vertical assembly structure. They had some trouble with that early days, but now they're starting to produce product. Oops. There it is. That's a, by looking at, I'm not quite sure which one that is, the wax or the liquid hydrogen. Doesn't matter. They've now got these things together. Let's have a look. Where are we? Interestingly enough, in its development, they haven't had a quarter of the trouble that they had with Constellation. So they're moving at a really good rate. No red flag items sort of appear. There's the odd one that they work through, but they are doing very well.
Are they going to have static tests at
yeah,
Stennis?
I'll come to that. Moving on, there it is. Tanks are being assembled. There's the adapters. There's some mock-ups. So it's quite large when you really compare to it. This bloke, Jerry Cook, became Deputy Director of the SLS at Marshall. He's had 30 years of experience in operations and development, and he actually started his career in a minor task like testing space shuttle main engines. So he's had quite a wealth of career, but that was something that came up recently and will be good for the program. Solid rocket boosters. By the way, these things, I should go back. These are all being, by June this year, will all be welded. This whole of the core stage will all be welded. So they've got a couple of iterations of it. They've got the confidence articles to know that they can do it. Then they've got these structural test articles which they will use to basically demolish. Then they're actually going to build the actual Exploration Mission 1 hardware. But they are going to test these things, and I'll come back in a second. So by March of 18, they'll stack the final core stage with the solid rocket boosters, with Orion, with the service module, European service module, and launch November 18. There's a solid rocket boosters, 5 segments. They're doing a lot of ground testing and validation of ground support equipment. This is part of it. There is another test article that's being utilised to support ground operations. Qualification motor test 1 occurred last year. There's another one coming up in October of this year, and that'll be, but they're already in production, into the production versions of these solid rocket motors. No liquids. The RS-25s, these are being tested at Stennis, which is in Mississippi, not very far from Michoud. There's 2 stands, the A1 stand and the B2 stand. The A1 stand tests single engines, the RS-25s, and the B2 stand will test the whole of the core stage with 4 engines on it. and they're coming up. In 2015, they did do some testing of RS-25s, which were space shuttle engines, but not flight versions of those engines. Well, last month they tested the first of the flight version engines. They're built by Aerojet Rocketdyne, and in November, Aerojet Rocketdyne were asked to restart the production line for the RS-25s. But the shuttle main engine ones are reusable. They're the RS-25Ds. The ones that Aerojet are going to build are the expendable versions called the 25Es, and they will use less welds, better technology, better techniques to build these things, based on some of the experience that they've had with the RS-68s, which were the Delta IV engines. So they're really trying to simplify, but they're making them expendable. And NASA, out of this contract, which was some $1.2 billion, has the option of buying 6 off the shelf for later missions. Now, the engine that they did test, there they are, they're the old. Oh, this is a great slide, and I encourage you to have a look at this, but it shows you the family evolution of the engines. Space Shuttle main engine is really on its own, but you'll see something that caught my eye. The Merlin engines has a heritage that goes back to the lunar module, which surprised me. I haven't delved into that one, but if you look at the Merlin engines that power the Falcon 9 rocket, that has a heritage that goes back to the lunar modules. Now, the lunar module, if you recall, had hypergolic fuels, whilst the Merlin engine doesn't. So I'm not quite sure how it all hangs together, but there's an interesting heritage there. But some of the interesting components are from the Soviet moon programs and how they evolved to the new Antares, which is the RD-181s. And you've got the RD-180s, which are currently the subject of, well, they're currently used in the Atlas very successfully, even though the last mission, if you haven't heard, the engines must have cut out a little bit earlier, and the Centaur upper stage had to keep firing to get the payload into orbit. So they're now investigating what the hell's happened to the RD-180s. They've been very reliable to date, so but it's a good little diagram. Is that an F1? I think it is, yeah. And this is at Stennis. This is the, they moved the thing into the A1 stand, and they basically fire it.
Didn't the old Spitfire have a Merlin engine at once? I'm thinking they could.
Slightly different. They did. This is the B2, sorry for the picture, this is the B2 test stand. As you can see, this is a huge core, and they'll fire the 4 engines. And they'll fire that early, I think it's next year. So watch this space. They also, the latest space shuttle engine that they just fired is designated number 20159. It's actually been up on 5 shuttle missions, 3 on Atlantis, 2 on Endeavour. So it's a true and tried engine, but the architecture for SLS is very different to the shuttle, and they've got new controllers, new modified controllers. They can't get spare parts from the old controllers in any case. So they've sort of retested those and run the engine for 500 seconds, 350 seconds. They were running at about 109% power levels to space shuttle engines. So they've given it a good working over. That engine that they've just tested will be for an EM2 mission. The EM1s are slowly going to get put back into the stand for their flights on EM1. The interim cryogenic propulsion stage, this is derivative of the Centaur. It's got the liquid oxygen, liquid hydrogen. There it is. It was going to be man-rated. They've dumped that idea. It's not going to be man-rated now. They're not going to spend 150 million. They're going to go straight into the exploration upper stage, which is 4-engine. Now, Pegasus barge, ground support stuff has been built. That was built probably last year. It's all done, but it's it fits the whole core stage in there. So it'll be something to see when it gets floating. That's for sure. And it comes from, there it is. It comes from shoot, and sails right around Florida up to the Cape, and then they unpack it and off they go. These other paths are paths to Marshall Space Flight Centre, where they actually will do structural and vibration testing, and at Stennis they actually do hot fire testing somewhere in Mississippi here.
So what's the green path for, please?
The green path, who knows, it's probably a road path to Marshall Space Flight Centre. I don't know why they've got the two paths. One goes this way.
I think the green path is by river.
Yeah. Is it? Yeah, that's a Mississippi actually. You're right. Okay. Facilities. This is part of the ongoing development. Again, this was one of these critical path activity items, but they've been updating the Kennedy Space Centre from the good old Apollo days. Just recently, a few weeks ago, we had, this was Crawler 2. Both crawlers first appeared at the Cape in their finished form in 1965 that supported the Apollo program. In 2012-13, they got funded to refurbish these things for the SLS program. The first one is Crawler Transport number 2. Interestingly enough, the Crawler Transports, they're, just bear with me, Crawler Transports, they were called Hans and Fritz. Obviously there's some German connection there to the old German rocket. So
where did that come from?
They were called Hans and Fritz, seriously. Anyway, so anyway, so the CST2 just made its debut the other day, and it's now being trialled, and it's ready to support EM1 mission in 2018. Also, the big mobile launcher, the ML system, it provides the base, the tower, ground support, power, comms, air conditioning, water and cooling, washdown, elevator and gantries and umbilicals. They're actually going at the moment, they're testing what's called the vertical stabiliser. Oops, go back. And the vertical stabiliser, I'll blow the one, there's that picture.
Just give it a moment to come in.
Is that what it is? I've deleted it. Anyway, you saw it. It's basically to stabilise the rocket during windy conditions. So they're testing that. And the umbilicals are being tested too, the gantries and umbilicals. This is Peter Alwood's little dream spot, I reckon, at Kennedy, because they do all this gantry umbilical testing at this spot at the Kennedy Space Centre. In fact, it supported the solid rocket boosters, it supported shuttle gantry testing, it even supported the X-33, if you remember, the Venture Star. They did testing in this spot, but it's got all the swinging and thing. As I said, Peter Alwood would love this place. They describe it as a sort of a theme park for gantries and umbilicals.
You can't beat a good gantry.
There it is, some bits and pieces. Of course, the VAB has been upgraded, and now Andrew Rennie has had the pleasure of being up at that level at one point, looking down on the space shuttle. So, but they've pulled out everything, and they've started to put in these platforms at the various levels along the SLS. So that's happening as we speak, and all going very well. And of course, there's and there it is when it all sits in there. This is where they make the whole thing together. Then they take it out with the mobile launcher to the 4 miles to pad 39B. 39B, of course, is being upgraded. This is an old picture, but they've flame trench has been enlarged quite significantly for these missions. Okay, that's what it's supposed to look like at the end. Of course, you've got a series of little, what do you call them, little tracking stations that are popping up all around the Cape to support the launch, of course. Stennis, as I said, that's supporting the testing of the engines. that's in Mississippi. There's the Test B stand, that was during construction. The thing will sit on top of this thing. They actually had to grab this thing and move it, 3 metres to the left. It was bizarre, but anyway, they did it. There it is. Marshall, this is where they do a lot of their vibration, structural integrity tests, and this is a model of where they put a core stage in the middle of this thing and they shake the little daylights out of it. And this was the pad footage they put down for it, for some of those structures. There's 2 of them going up. One of them is over the old Saturn F1 engine stand, if you like, that they did test at Marshall. I thought all hot fire tests were done at Stennis, but I need to do a bit more research, I suspect. They may have done some at Marshall in, where's Marshall in Georgia? Correct?
Marshall's in Alabama.
Huntsville, Alabama. What's in Georgia? Nothing. All right, this is it going up. So as you can see, they're moving at a good rate of knots at these facilities, because towards the end of this year and early next year, there's going to be a whole heap of testing that goes on. So there's real hardware. They're really going to test some of this stuff. There it is. Missions. Okay, where are we up to? Because last time I spoke, this was all in a real state of flux. Only 2 missions have really been authorised, EM1 and EM2. EFT1, if you recall last year, was a great launch in December on this Delta.
Year before.
December
2014, sorry, not last year, 2014, you're right.
They did it for our Christmas breakup.
That's right, I remember it well.
And then they had screwed.
And, okay, that was EFT1. EM1, no Earl, right. EM1 is going to have Orion go to the moon, or 70,000 k's past it and come back. But they've got some payloads, and they're CubeSats. One of them is to send a little solar sail thing to an asteroid and do some asteroid reconnaissance. Another one is a biology experiment, another one is a lunar experiment, fires lasers and stuff. But the big deal was, remember the interim upper stage was going to get replaced by the exploration upper stage. They couldn't just put that thing on EM2 because it had not been tested. Well, guess what? There's going to be a mission between EM1 and EM2, and that is the Europa Clipper. In 2016, Congress mandated that it be launched on the SAA, which is interesting, and further, it has a lander on it. Now, this will be a real flagship mission if they can get this thing really to work. But it will go off on the SLS. They will fly the first of the exploration upper stages, no later than 2022, but I don't think that's actually mandated. I think that's what Congress would like. Once they've flown that exploration upper stage, they can then put it onto the exploration mission 2, which has been pushed back to 2023. So this will be quite a mission, and it'll use that exploration upper stage. EM2, they're looking at 3 scenarios. They're looking for the baseline mission, which is they shoot it towards the moon and go into lunar orbit. That's the baseline. For 3 days, they will orbit the moon in a very elliptical orbit, down to 100 kilometres to 10,000 kilometres. But they'll do that for 3 days. But they are in such a launch. I don't understand the physics behind it, but apparently if things go wrong, like the service module main engine doesn't fire, they can still get back on minor thrusts back to the Earth on free return trajectories, a bit like Apollo 13. Again, don't understand the physics behind it, but it's been well thought through, no doubt. They can basically abandon the mission at any point, depending on problems. That's the baseline mission. There's a couple of other scenarios. There's the Apollo 8 on steroids, go past the moon and back, and so there's a couple of options and a couple of other scenarios. So they're working on the EM2 as we speak, but that will be the first of the manned missions. 2023, you're going to have to wait. Of course, the asteroid initiative EM2 was to go to an asteroid. That's got abandoned. But this is actually getting legs, Len, sorry to say. The idea is that they'll grab an asteroid over a 6-year period and bring it back into cislunar orbit, and then an SLS will go up there, EM3 or EM4 or EM5, and grab it. And the idea is that they have selected this, they'll go and pick up a boulder and bring it back. But the idea behind this is not about, it's about robotics, it's about deep space, it's about getting experience. It's not, this is the marketing aspect, grab a boulder off an asteroid, but it's more than that. Then of course there's a whole series of other things that are being talked about but no one's heard anything about. And of course they've done some interesting studies on landers, 40-ton landers to Mars. So that'd be nice to see with aero braking. And there's a series of steps towards Mars, but that is real pie in the sky stuff. There's still vague words about getting to Mars in 2030s, but again, it's next president will fix that. This was the journey to Mars. This is a nice little picture, but this is the one that I look at, and if you can have a look at those milestones, you'll see, for example, down the bottom, some of these, no funding, zero funding provided for the Mars initiatives. There's a whole series of reality checks about
that's not a NASA graphic, is it? That's a NASA graphic.
No, that's a NASA graphic. That's the previous NASA graphic with a couple of enhancements to give you a reality check. The truth of the matter is the Chinese have announced moon initiatives, Russians are talking about it. The next president, just to differentiate themselves, will probably say, moon initiative, who knows. Interestingly enough though, that in 2 years' time we'll have a rocket that can actually get there. We don't have one at the moment. This thing, SLS, will actually allow to get there. And if they wanted to build a lander, give it 5 years, they could develop a lander. So finally, after 45 years or whatever it was, we may have the option. However, the dark horse in the equation, Mr. SpaceX, he's got this, it's a BF, what do they call it? BFB, I think. BFR? Big something booster.
Big effing rocket.
Yeah, big effing rocket. Yeah, it's a BFR. It's a big effing rocket. And apparently, if you believe the hype, this is twice the power of the Saturn V. And it's part of Mr. Musk's Mars initiative, right, about colonising Mars. This rocket is slated to fly in 2020, so why have we got an SLS?
Well, that was before his recent alimony payments, so maybe not.
I think he'll have a little bit to share with his first wife, or his third wife, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's another industry that he has as well.
He's actually competing with Mr. Trump, I think.
Yeah.
Two on competition. Budget program, this was a 2016, great success story. But the 2017 budget, oh, by the way, I've shown you this slide before, but this was the glory days of Apollo, and this is how the budget has shrunk to, this is only goes to 12, but it's probably continuing down. It used to be 4% of the gross, the federal budget, it's now down to 0.5 and 0.4 and shrinking. Now, the 2019 budget has just, 17 has just been announced by NASA. Of course, what did NASA do? It cut SLS and Orion. Why? Well, if you're a cynic amongst us, you'd say, well, they know Congress is going to fund it.
It's an election year.
So what will happen is Congress will put money to keep its pet project, a la SLS, going, whilst NASA has funded some of the other parts like commercial space, and aeronautics and technology get a big boost, as does robotics and all sorts of stuff. So NASA's playing all sorts of little games. Anyway, that's the update. That's it. Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Interesting. Has anyone heard Charlie Bolden in the last 6 months? He's just disappeared off the face of the earth.
Well, he's gone.
Looking for his post-election.
He's gone. He'll be gone soon.
Yeah.
So he's had a couple of little events of recent times, but he's gone quiet. But NASA still keeps talking Mars, and it's beyond him quiet though.
One little piece of news I saw during the last couple of weeks, or since the last meeting, was I remember our friends at Rocket Labs in New Zealand, they had a static fire test of their Rutherford engine, which apparently from preliminary reports went very well.
It did.
That's a 3D printed
Correct.
engine.
And they'll have 9 of those in the base for their rocket. So if you look at it, maybe their rocket flies next year. So it'll be interesting to watch.
Were they going to be having that static test was supposed to be late last year, wasn't it? Was that what they were talking about when they had the presentation, right?
I thought it was.
Yeah, it was meant to be before the end of last year.
And there's broken ground on 2 different launch sites too.
Yeah.
In New Zealand?
In New Zealand. One on North Island, one on South Island.
What's the maximum tonnage they can actually loft into?
500 kilos.
So they're in that sort of class, that
Yeah, so
half a ton.
the first couple of launches they're doing are going to be in the 150 to 300 kilo range.
Anyway. Okay, so we live in exciting times. In the next 2 years, you'll see a lot happen. Thank you.
You're saying Apollo on steroids. I think WADA has been investigating them because it feels like they're on a 2-year suspension.
There's no funding from the Essendon Football Club. I'll let you know.
The first slides.
Sorry?
He's
been debating the budgets and stuff, but he's not. At the end of his tenure will come to an end.
I saw a post about rockets. Did you see anything about that? I didn't read the article.
No, I didn't. I saw it, but I didn't read it. All I know is just something comes out of Russia. Just at the end, no rubles. And now that the Russian ruble has actually crashed, it's even worse. Space is not going to get a great deal.
Greetings, everyone. For those who don't know me, I'm Andrew Rennie. I'm going to have a quick wish around the solar system, fast as usual, because there's lots happening. Rosetta is now in orbit around Comet Churyumov again. It's now 20 kilometres from the centre of the nucleus of the comet, which means that it's about 15 kilometres away from the surface. And it had to move away during the perihelion stage when the comet was very active, but now that the activity is dying down, it's now able to move in closer. And one of the things that it's discovered is an area around the comet where there's no magnetic field. So the magnetic field has been blocked there. The comet and the Rosetta are shown to scale at the top there. This is a picture released just a couple of days ago, showing the sort of imagery that's now coming back, now that we're back in close again on the comet. And of course the interesting thing is now we can look at changes that have happened during the more than a year that it's been at the comet. And that picture was released just a couple of days ago as well. The comet does have a tail, and this is ground imagery, and it stretches now more than 10 million kilometres away from the comet. Dawn is in orbit around the dwarf planet Ceres, and is really, the orbit's been dropped down progressively, and is now several hundred kilometres away from the dwarf planet, which is closer to that than what the International Space Station is to the Earth. Now this is the highest mountain on Ceres, and if we get time to show the video, that refer to more on that as well. Just coming back from the planets for a moment, I discovered this a few days ago on the net for International Women's Day, and it was published, put up on NASA's website. And these 3 women in pink are the ones that I saw walk out to the shuttle, well actually to the Astroman, be taken to the shuttle for launch, and I saw them being launched into space. And the other lady up there in red was a long-term resident on the space station at that time. So they were in space when I was at the Kennedy Space Centre, so I was quite thrilled to see that and see the pictures of them in space, given that I'd seen them, if not actually met them, at the Kennedy Space Centre. Now, Mars and the ExoMars mission, the European Space Agency mission, this gives you an idea of the size of, that's just the antenna you can see there, and the trace gas orbiter there. This is the largest spacecraft ever launched to Mars by any nation. Largest in physical size and mass. It has a lander called Schiaparelli, and it's a number of the instruments on the outside of it and heaps of them on the inside. Here you see Schiaparelli at the top, mounted up there, and this is the high gain antenna, and you see the solar panels all folded up in preparation for launch. It has the first laser retroreflector ever put on Mars, well, if it gets to Mars. And laser reflectors, of course, were used in Earth orbit to track satellites, and also on the Moon to were placed there by the Apollo missions and by Lunokhod. And these will be the first ones on the surface of Mars. It's only a few centimeters across and weighs about 26, has a mass of about 26 grams. So mass is very constrained on the Schiaparelli lander, as well as the size of it. There's Schiaparelli being tested in about to be put into a thermal test chamber. This is the trace gas orbiter with the Schiaparelli lander attached to it. Instruments on the lander. So I don't have time to describe them all. Proton was the launch vehicle, and if we get to the movie stage, I've got a movie of it being rolled out to the launch pad. It's not often you see the Proton being rolled out. You often see pictures of the movies of the Soyuz roll out. But anyway, here's the Proton being erected. Once the secret rocket.
Is that wood around the top?
Is it what?
Is it wood around? Is it some?
It's thermal insulation, but it's
yeah,
not
it's
wood.
like wood.
It's
balsa or something.
Blankets that they come off.
Yeah, the wood finish is an expensive version.
So the launch was successful. I was able to watch it live on the internet. Live by streaming video from European Space Agency. They had an 8-hour event. It lasted all day. I only watched the launch part of it and then watched the rest later. This was taken from South America and shows the upper stage of the ExoMars mission, the Breeze M, it's called, upper stage of the Proton, and a whole lot of debris alongside. And apparently what happened was that after separation, and when ExoMars had moved several kilometres away, the Breeze was supposed to separate into two parts, and it exploded. Now, when I was watching the launch, I was thinking, given the Russians have had such a bad history of getting things to Mars, getting them out of Earth orbit, they have a lot of upper stage failures. It was very brave of the European Space Agency to choose the Proton as a launch vehicle. And sure enough, here we are, it explodes. But fortunately, after ExoMars is on its way. They were worried for a little while that maybe some debris had hit the ExoMars, but if so far the reports today I've read say that all's well, that the instruments are checking out okay, and there doesn't appear to be any damage. It was several kilometres away when this happened. I've got a movie of that, by the way, coming up. Here's the landing sequence that we expect later this year, and we take, if you look at the decelerations here, this looks better when you enlarge it up, but we go in just 1 minute and 12 seconds from 21,000 kilometres an hour to 15,000 kilometres an hour, and then down to, and so on, down to a touchdown at about 10 kilometres an hour. The landing sequence is very much like for Viking. Speaking of Viking, that's where Viking landed, and you can see where the other landers have landed on Mars, and Schiaparelli is going to land right on Meridiani Planum, which is very close to where Opportunity landed. This is the landing site, the target area on Meridiani Planum. And we've got some elevations here, so it's pretty flat ground, and I have a movie showing this landing site as well. Now, out to Pluto, dwarf planet Pluto. Just released last Friday, this picture. It shows a dried up lake. Now this is a lake, and looks to be billions of years old. At some point in the past, there was liquid on Pluto. And you can see, just like lake beds that dry up here on Earth, you can see rings around the things, different layers there. So, at some point in the past, there were lakes on Pluto.
Of what?
Give me $50 billion and I'll find out.
Liquid methane and nitrogen, okay, but not water, because water's a lot harder. This is haze layers on Pluto, and you can see, if you trace one of these lines like this one here, you will see that bang, it hits the planet. Down there, it's getting closer and closer and closer. In other words, the layers are not the same height all the way through. Again, and since their last meeting, this has been released, and Sputnik Planum, which we've seen lots of, is up over here, out of sight, and we have here layers of tholins. The reddish colours are tholins. We have lots of nitrogen ice, and there's some patches of water ice in there as well. The actual north pole of Pluto, and marked there are some of the chasms and canyons that are there, and they're quite deep, quite large. Here is an image. This one on the right is in sort of an infraredish sort of colour, and then we've got the visible light, and the red colours are tholins, which are organic chemicals, and the white is water ice. And you can see in relation to Sputnik Planum where it is down on the left-hand picture. Okay. Now, this is a great mystery. Well, sort of. It's partial explanation. What we've got here is, let's just try and get the pointer right. See that escarpment there? It's quite obvious that this, well, it's obvious to the experts, that this is where this is being eaten away, and gradually this is receding in this direction towards there. And what's happening is that the nitrogen ice is eroding away, subliming. And we have this area here, which is what's left behind after this area has receded. So this one has yet to recede, and this one here is what's left after it's gone. And again, we see the thermal image here supporting those findings. Now, what's causing that, and over what time period this is happening, is the mystery that I referred to. Oh, sorry. Mars Express is still operating in orbit around Mars, and there's a few recent pictures just released a few days ago showing some oblique views of Mars taken by the European Space Agency's Mars Express, which has been in orbit around Mars now for, well, since like 2003 or about 2004. And the oblique views are really quite standard. It actually takes verticals, but they're stereo verticals, and from that they can do these things. And the fly-arounds they do from it are quite stunning. Let's move on. Cassini, remember, has been flying around Saturn for more than 10 years now, and about once a month has been flying past Titan. It has a radar on board, it does sweeps, and you can see here the tracks where it's done detailed mapping of Titan. We're familiar, of course, from years ago of the lakes up here, the liquid methane. And here are the highest mountains on Titan. And now, because the sweeps have swept over it quite a few times, they've now got good details of it. And just a few days ago, NASA released this image of the highest mountains on Titan. Meanwhile, using the 2 micrometer wavelength, they've been stitching together from all those passes detailed looks at the surface of Titan, and these are the best that they've now done. Showing, and they're trying to get it stitched seamless. Ceres. This is, as I said, the orbiter is now in quite close, and this is Akhota crater, and the salt, I think it's salt, but not too sure, these white spots, and we're now getting much more detail. But remember when it first came, there was just a little spot on it, white spot. Now we can see it in detail. And I think that's it. Michael, could you please exit out of that and go to U2 and click on the first HTML file, TCAM. Now, U2 was a Chinese moon rover that landed on the moon, and recently China released the images that it took during its lifetime, and you can see, and if we scroll through those, Michael, we can see all the pictures it took with one particular camera. Just scroll quickly through them. I picked out a few to look at in detail, but you can get an idea from this that the huge number. And here's a few of these pictures that U2 took. Now look at this one here and the next picture. Let's go back. The antenna rotating there. Okay, let's go on. And panoramas have been stitched together from all those images. That's the lander. And by the way, you're seeing this compressed down when you, if you clicked on it, which we won't do because we haven't got time, you see much more detail. That's where it went. And they've even named the rocks and things. So Outer Fence, Dragon Rock, Celestial Gate, J Wall, and so on and so on. All right, that's it, Michael. Out of that again, please. And now we're into if you go to that ExoMars booster, back to ExoMars and the explosion of the booster, and you can see this little animated GIF here showing the debris moving along. Okay. No, we don't want to do that. Sorry. Okay, just exit out of that, please, Michael, now. You crit Firefox altogether. Right, now, a little bit of fun. In February, we had the 55th anniversary of the test of the Mercury flight, MR2, in which Mercury Redstone, in which a chimpanzee was launched into space. And so this song is called Ham the Space Monkey. So this celebrates, and this is a song I played on the space show. I've been collecting space songs now for about 2 years or so. When I started, I thought, oh, maybe there'll be about a dozen.
Here we are at Cape Canaveral to witness the launching of a capsule containing ham.
I thought maybe there'd be a couple of dozen songs. 1,500 songs, and I'm only up to R in the alphabet.
Just to take a ride up through the stratosphere. Well, he's about the smallest little chimpanzee. He imitates and tries to talk like you and me. Of course, old Mr. Him was just a mystery. They told him someday he'd go down in history. Well, he was such an actor, so they called him Ham. He was gonna take the risk instead of man. They put him in a capsule like a rocket ship. He didn't mind at all, he just enjoyed the trip. Sailing through the air with the greatest of ease. He never traveled faster through no jungle trees. A real proud American from outer space. He surely gives a credit to the monkey race. The moral of the story you can plainly see. Some humans ain't as smart as a chimpanzee.
Ladies and gentlemen, the capsule has now safely returned to Earth. In a moment, we will hear the voice of the first monkey to conquer space. And here he is now. How about a few words, Ham?
Well, really, darling, it's been a most tiring trip. I think I'll go to my room now and rest.
The anniversary of Enos is coming up in November, and I have found a band that in England is called Enos, and their whole first CD is about Enos's flight. But it's heavy metal stuff, you know, it's heavy sort of punk rock sort of stuff. So anyway, now 102, please, Michael. I found this on the internet a few weeks ago.
Искандер Рынбеков по прозвищу Гагарин, первый космонавт, который полетит сегодня в космос. Зажигание.
Ну да, видно. Ты, наверное, им голову мыла. Обломки упадут в 15 километрах в юго-западном направлении.
Смерть поганым стервятникам!
На Международной космической станции МКС Джоли Махе принимала участие в установке матрешки, так называемого муляжа человека.
Julie, I wish you a soft landing.
Обещаю, Валерий, как обычно. Слышим вас хорошо, был небольшой перерыв.
В коме она. Ну а ты ее поцелуй. Am I your bride?
Шерхан, и отвези ее на Байконур. Ты понял?
Что с неба упало, то навеки даровано Богом тому, кто это найдет.
Груши и ракеты, может быть, но не космонавтки.
А я даю 70. 85.
Where's Igor tonight?
Она будет моей любимой женой.
Так у вас уже 3 жены есть.
Andrew, on SBS the other night, I happened to, whilst channel surfing, right, I happened to get to the tail end of a Russian movie on Gagarin that was on SBS.
That movie's been around.
I've not. Is there a CD or something around?
You can probably watch it on.
Yes, there is.
Okay.
Yeah.
That movie Gagarin is available.
Well, anyway, I was so impressed by that trailer. I found a few other bits and pieces about the making of, and so I got onto Amazon and ordered it from Germany, and 5 days later,
What language?
this on Thursday last week, this arrived, and I watched it over Easter, and it's really, really good. And it's called Baikonur.
But you have to invite Igor to the.
And yeah, there's. I won't give away the main plot points. You can pass it around and have a look at it. And just while I'm doing that, I remind you of a couple other often overlooked things which are available here in Australia. That one's not, apparently. I couldn't find it anywhere for sale in Australia. It's the film Moon, which is on TV recently, which I saw at the Nova Cinema, and also Love, which was low-budget films. Now, just while we're looking at it, a little bit of comedy here, which will offend some people. Go to First Woman on the Moon, 107, please. 107. This is just, I used to teach at the girls' high school, but I was reminded of Buzz Aldrin when I saw this. You remember the comment by Buzz Aldrin as he came out? Okay. Now, if we go back to XMR's rollout, we went 103, please. Sorry, 103, and you often see the rollout of Sawyers, but not of Proton. So here's, I thought you might enjoy part of this. We won't see it all because it runs about 5 minutes and we're over time already. But in that film Baikonur, you saw the guy brushing the stones up the track. They really do that. This guy got a job, in the film he got a job at Baikonur. And his job was brushing the stones up the track. And in that film, Baikonur, those guys you see in the tractor and so on, they were collecting the debris that falls downrange and selling the metal for scrap to China. And some years ago at the Space Association, I showed you a film of the people who lived downrange of Plesetsk Cosmodrome who were doing exactly the same thing, for real. Now, the moment in this film, if you haven't already seen it when I was looking away, you see the guy checking the stones on the rails. In English.
It's a patriotism test.
If you
That's
actually stop it.
It's probably an international sign, isn't it?
They're the guys checking the tracks. And in the movie Baikonur, the Kazakh guy gets the job doing that. Okay, Mike, we better move on, I think. Interesting though it is to see the rest of it.
I think the front logo is probably cleaning the track in that case.
I think they were looking for IEDs.
It doesn't look like wood.
No, it's not good.
Another thing in that film, Baikonur, the first time I've ever seen inside the control centre at Baikonur. You often see it at Kennedy Space Centre. I've never ever seen pictures inside the control centre. And these guys filming this, German crew filming it, were allowed to go into the control centre and film. Okay, 104 please.
A landing site for ExoMars 2016. In March 2016, the European Space Agency, in partnership with Roscosmos, will launch the ExoMars Trace Gas Orbiter. This orbiter will also carry an Entry, Descent, and Landing Demonstration Module, or EDM for short, a lander designed primarily to demonstrate the capability to land on Mars. The EDM will survive for only a few days, running on battery power, but will make a few environmental measurements. The landing site is the flattest, safest place on Mars, part of the Meridiani Planum, close to where the rover Opportunity landed. This image shows what this terrain is like, very flat and featureless. A full-resolution sample reveals the major surface features, small craters, and wind ripples. HiRISE has been imaging the landing site region in advance of the landing, and will re-image the site after landing to identify the major pieces of hardware, heat shield, back shell with parachute, and the lander itself. The distribution of these pieces will provide information about the entry, descent, and landing.
Very good.
And oh yeah, if we go to 110. Sorry, the next 110. Sorry.
Other 100.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just number there.
Right.
Second 110. Thank you.
There's literally
sorry. This is how they've been mapping. Notice the size of each individual image and how many are needed to cover the whole dwarf planet. When I first saw this film, I thought, oh, there's going to be those annoying gaps in the mapping.
Where the aliens are. Yeah.
We're up to February 9, 21 of this year. There's a couple left. Will they get them? March. March 10. Finally on March the 10th, they finally completed the detail map. Okay, we better finish up here, but let's just look at one more, and that's 111 Dawn.
This is Ceres, the dwarf planet that Dawn's been orbiting for more than a year now, providing us with fascinating views of an alien world. During its exploration, Dawn has moved closer and closer, allowing us to get a broad overview and then see exquisite detail. This is Ahuna Mons, the highest mountain on Ceres. Towering in an otherwise unremarkable area, it seems very odd that it rises so sharply, and geologists still don't know why. On its steepest side, it soars 3 miles, higher than any peak in the continental United States. Kaulani Crater, one of the brightest regions on Ceres. It's about 21 miles across. Its well-defined shape indicates it's relatively young, the impact that formed it having occurred in recent geological times. You can see a substantial amount of bright material, which the latest analyses indicate may be a kind of salt. This is Osho Crater, which shows more of this intriguing bright material inside and out, as well as a peculiar shape. At 6 miles in diameter, this is the second brightest feature on Ceres. You can see next to it an intriguing linear feature called a slump, where a mass of material is dropped below the surface. This is Urvara Crater, about 105 miles in diameter, although not the largest on Ceres. Although many craters have a mountain in the center, Urvara has a prominent double peak, surrounded by rough terrain and linear parallel grooves. The Kator Crater, 57 miles across and 2 miles deep. As dawn closed in, what initially looked like one spot became 2 and eventually a multitude of features. This reflective material makes it the brightest region on Ceres. The crater also appears to be among the youngest on Ceres. Dawn mission scientists estimate its age to be about 80 million years, which is quite young in geological time. Dawn is now orbiting only 240 miles above Ceres, which is closer than the space station is to Earth, and it will continue to return spectacular views.
Thank you, Andrew.
And perhaps we could just finish and talk over the movie on the New Christie Minstrels 109.
The rocket waited in the sun. Count reached 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. The Gemini roared out of sight with Jim McDivitt and Ed White.
Gemini, flying in the Gemini, up above the inside. Let's go around again, 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 again.
Now the Titan did its duty well. NASA, they thought things were swell. Twist the board to a happy ride, and then told White, step outside. Yeah.
Gemini, flying in the Gemini, up above the inside. Let's go around again, 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 again.
Now White smeared the windshield with a note, floated up and calmly wrote. McDivitt saw from where that he sat, his friend had written,
It looks bad.
Yeah.
Gemini, flying in the Gemini,
Thanks, Andrew. What we have up here is that, as people may be aware, our Tidy Club page, which has all of our events. This is next month's meeting. We've got Adina Silverstein, who's actually flying down from Sydney for this. So we want a good turnout for her. She's going to be talking about the psychological effects of space flight. So it should be quite a fascinating evening. So come along and bring somebody with you, and we'll make a big night for us. Go and do a big effort for that. And it should be a fun night. Remember, it is not Monday night, it's Tuesday night. day after Anzac Day. One other last thing I just noticed, you may have seen it, is that there's a pop-up bar called the Astronaut Bar, which opens tomorrow night for 10 days only. It's in, where is it?
In Fitzroy. It's in Fitzroy. Try and pull up
It's at the old bar in Fitzroy, and just tapped the screen and lost it.
It's on the big screen there. Yeah.
Oh. So yeah, so it's open tomorrow night. I'm going to be in the city. I might be able to drop by. $10 entry. It's our friend. Guy Murphy's going to be talking apparently. I've just found out about Mars and things.
So the Mars Society are making an event meet-up. So
when people are living on Mars, it's going to change what it means to be human. You know, or it might. Either way, if we're thinking about it, as we all know, the best philosophy is done down in the pub. We're turning the old bar in Fitzroy into Astronaut Alley. It'll be a pop-up bar designed to be just like a local pub, but on Mars. There'll be live music, guest speakers, and of course, Martian beer on tap. We're having artists create pieces specifically for the bar, and then they'll be on display upstairs in the gallery. We're not asking for money or pre-selling tickets. Just showing support for the idea by having your names on the mailing list. The more names we get, the more sponsors. And more sponsors means more Martian fun for you. My name's Leo, and I'm an artist. My dream is to go to Mars, but until the rockets are ready to launch, let's get together and build the next best thing. See you on it.
Well, I'm conscious of what he just said then. It says here it's $10 entry. So Guy Murphy is going to be chatting about all things Mars and space exploration. David Wilson from NASA will talk about what's happening at Ames. And there's going to be like an art exhibition and there'll be Martian beer. So.
And, Pete, did you know that the Space Walk of Fame are having a charity auction?
No, is that
They're raising money. Of course, I can't see it.
If you ever get to the States, you ever get to Florida, go to this museum. It's the best.
It's excellent.
Yeah, well, they've got a
free entry run by volunteers.
Selling stuff.
They're selling stuff to raise money to get themselves going. So there's a whole series of lots. It takes a while to load because there's so much stuff. But it's quite interesting. So it gives you an estimated price range here. Tells you the current bid. You put in your maximum bid, and then it tells you how many bids there've been.
When's it closed?
There's some more stuff in
Not sure. There's one thing I thought that Pete would be interested in putting a. There's an old Launch Complex 39 light globe.
There's a bolt.
And there's a bolt as well.
There's a bolt from a gantry.
He's got one for free.
Yeah, but this would complete the set.
And you can have a look how much the Gus Grissom signed thing is. It's 1,100 already.
Yeah. Current bid.
Got him to sign that. That's clever.
You got one of those. Lots of access passes.
Got a few of those.
Countdown manuals. Oh, I love this. Hindenburg collection of artifacts.
Wow.
Interesting estimated price range.
$10,000.
Yep, starting bid is 10. Yep.
Wow.
Nothing that this group is particularly interested in, you think? Or?
Everything.
Take it all.
As a group rather than...
Launch system review reports, I'll be on that one.
The patch, that's a patch uses.
Press kits.
Yeah,
That's just page 1.
Wow.
How much did I ask for the press kits?
I think it was $150, yeah.
The set or
Sorry?
Each, was that a set or each?
For the set, I believe, for the lot. Yep.
Oh, okay.
I love,
Because I've got them.
I'm not quite sure.
Korean War Fighter Crash Report.
Early Mercury program.
Large lot of NASA personnel, photos. I love this one.
It's like all the charade everywhere.
Yes. So what happens is you can take a closer look at the lot, and it's quite well done. So you can get to see some of the detail. Not so useful on this one, perhaps, but on others it's very, very useful.
See what Michael's doing here. I used to program something like that in leopards.
I love this. Sales and marketing material from his estate. Take command. Cancelled checks. What is that about?
Not probably bounce as high as orbit.
Apollo Beta cloth crew patches. All sorts of stuff. Kind of sad because some of this stuff I suppose was for sale at the museum. Radio card. Access cards. Oh, this one's current bid $180. Life magazine with Buzz's signature. But I want to show you this light, Pete.
Oh, the matching sets.
So you'll have a. I don't think it's. I'm not sure that it's from the Apollo era though. It's from the shuttle era.
How much is that? Apollo 13. How much?
This one.
160. 140.
110 is current bid.
No, the one above it.
Oh, sorry.
The Apollo.
140.
For the 13. Apollo 13 side picture.
Yep.
Current
I'm not sure what this. Flying to the Moon, Lunar Bible. In micro form.
Yeah.
Look at this, starting bid is 7,500.
That's a microfiche.
Go
well,
in
yes.
Texas.
But it's CNN microfiche reader.
Sell well in Texas.
Alan Shepard.
It's a good thing they didn't have one of those in the Sinai 3,500 years ago. We'd have 4 million commandments.
That's what it said.
Andrew, you mentioned that you're having Jim Rigney on your show talking about Ed Mitchell in a couple of weeks, is that right?
Yes.
14.
There's deep.
Deep.
Can we come on and heckle?
Oh, that's the
Landing.
Enterprise landing.
Yeah, it's nice.
Scroll. It's a lot of stuff.
Just stacks of stuff. Yeah, I thought there was actually a model, but it's not a model, it's just a photograph of a model. Very nice. Because you have to get all this stuff over.
Or fly.
Fly
there
there
and pick it up.
like photographs of models.
Locke Cunningham souvenir drink glasses.
Bob Cunningham's autographed I Hate Neil Armstrong posters.
My daughter said, I said, do you want to come to Space Beach tonight? She goes, oh no.
No, but it'll be good.
I don't want to come. She goes, oh, you're going to talk about Neil Armstrong?
Armstrong.
I said, who? Neil Armstrong. No, Armstrong. Oh, we all broke up.
Very good.
Neil Armstrong.
And why are they having this auction? Well, they're raising all the money for the museum.
Yeah,
keep it running.
Give it around.
basically to keep it running, I think.
This has to be a self-limiting process, one would think.
Yeah, well, that's
Well,
the shame of it, but here it is. I reckon, Pete, that would look
I
fantastic.
thought he had 3 bids.
That's a Pan 39A
Yeah.
walkway line.
That's US dollars, so it's only $400 at the moment.
I can just see that in your living room.
Living room.
You can actually replace the light in your bed.
Yeah, that'll be in the front door.
No, that,
So every time he turns on his porch light,
that's
You can have a sound effect of a rocket every time we up and down.
You
Be
buy
a
that.
security alarm.
You buy that.
Okay, enough of the baby boomer nostalgia.
yeah, sorry guys. Thought you might be vaguely interested in that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'll be in the car park.
I have to go
My
now.
bank balance isn't, but I am.
There's got to be something I could buy.
Yeah. All right. What else can we show you?
Right, what time are they going to kick us out of here?
Oh, they've all locked up and gone home.
Probably. We're probably locked in.
Well, listen, once again, thank you to our guest speakers for coming on tonight.
Yeah.
And thanks to everyone who, well, people who haven't been here or only been here a couple of times.
Please come back.
Come back, all this forgiven. And we'll see you in April.
actually, I quite like that.
Stop teasing us with that space porn, Mike.